Okay, Susan, Don Jr. in Greenland, as his father keeps on talking about this idea of acquiring the territory. Seems like it might be a little bit of trolling, but should we take it seriously?
No, we shouldn't take it seriously. I think Donald Trump Jr. actually put it perfectly, having a little fun. I think they're all having a little fun at our expense. And frankly, it's a way of not talking about things like, I don't know, Kash Patel and other nominees to his cabinet who have been getting a lot of bad press. And now we've had this little break and we're talking about Greenland and canals and Canada becoming a state, none of which is going to happen. But it is a good deflection.
But why the focus? And I want to get your take, Richard, because it's not just Greenland. As Susan pointed out, he's also been talking about Canada becoming a new American state, trolling Justin Trudeau, calling him governor. 2 weeks from the inauguration. What do you make of it?
Look, Trump loves picking fights. He loves bullying. But let's not forget that respecting sovereignty is a cornerstone of the U.S. foreign policy. It's why we're backing Ukraine. It's why we have NATO. So what does Trump do? He plays footsie with all these tyrants in China, Russia, and North Korea. And he, makes a mockery of our allies. And I think people will be reminded, certainly our foreign leaders, of the time that they laughed about Trump behind his back at a NATO meeting while Trump was president after he had left because he had made such a fool out of himself. And I think that's what he's reminding these foreign leaders of and the American public of how foolish he can be because he thinks in his own addled way that somehow this brings glory to him. But I think that is short-sighted.
That's such a great point. And just to add on to that, because I was being a little flippant, I admit, but to be serious about it, it'll be interesting how someone like Marco Rubio will now handle these relationships and things that come up.
So he may be asked about it next week at his confirmation hearing. You never know. Meantime, Susan, Trump is also claiming that Biden is doing everything possible to make the transition as difficult as possible. His words, and he alleges what he calls lawfare. He cites new executive orders. Meanwhile, Trump's incoming White House chief of staff, Susie Wiles, really paints a picture of things going pretty smoothly. She tells Axios Biden's chief of staff has been very helpful. He's made great suggestions, helped make sure we stay on time and with required functions, helped us navigate the labyrinth that is the executive office of the president, and has been very professional. Even says he invited her for dinner at his house. What's your read on Trump's claim that President Biden is trying to make things as difficult as possible?
That's Trump letting loose. There's some things, executive actions, that, of course, he does not approve of, but he'll be able to change those when he gets back into office. But what I think is interesting is Susie Wiles in that interview basically said she never tried to manage the president, just the campaign. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what she's saying when it comes to Trump. What he does on Truth Social is his thing, and she's not going to try and manage that. But it doesn't mean that the incoming White House chief of staff can't manage the office and see to the particulars and see that things are getting done. And we've also heard from the Biden side that the Trump folks have been responsive, especially on foreign policy.
On this idea of managing Trump, though, it's interesting you bring that up because we have some new reporting just this morning that Susie Wiles is trying to limit the number of people who have access to Donald Trump in the White House in terms of the number of assistants to the president, to make fewer people. How could that make a difference in terms of the new Trump administration, Richard?
Well, it's not going to happen. I mean, they all have his cell number, and that's when he's at his kind of most self-referential, is when he's calling members of Congress and having these chats and trying to influence policy. And we all know one day it's a big, beautiful bill, and next day it's two bills. Look, the fact of the matter is Trump's putting this on Biden. So when he gets off to a slow start, which seems totally predictable, let's not forget it wasn't long ago that they said by the inauguration, they wanted to have one of these big bills done. And now they're talking April, and we all know it's going to be June, July, or maybe September before they actually get it done. So this is a way for him to kind of pass the buck and say, I would have done great except for Biden tied my hands, which is nonsense.
Guys, I want to shift gears for a minute and ask you about pardons. Trump has repeatedly promised to pardon January 6 rioters, and now a former Proud Boys founder, leader, Enrique Tarrio, is asking for a pardon specifically. He was sentenced to 22 years in prison for his seditious conspiracy conviction. That's the lengthiest sentence of any of the January 6 defendants. Do you think that is even perhaps a bridge too far for Trump, Susan?
It could be because of the issues with law enforcement around it. And let's not forget, Donald Trump just needs to pardon some people for him to, in his mind, to have matched that campaign promise. He did say it would be on a case, he'd have to look at it case by case. So that may be a case that doesn't get it, or maybe he commutes the sentence. I don't know. And it doesn't have to happen day one. It could happen on the last day of year 4. So this is him, Trump, definitely saying, I will make good on a campaign promise, but we have to see who he actually pardons.
And Richard, you're a lawyer. What's your take?
He can pardon any of these people, right? But I don't see how you go, we back the blue when you're pardoning people who have killed the blue. Right. The Capitol Police chief said that what is the statement that this makes if you pardon people who are beating up cops? We've had Republican-appointed judges in D.C. who have called this preposterous, and we see from the polls that 60% or more of Americans are dead set against the notion of pardoning these people. So, Trump's a huckster. If he talks his way out of this one, go for it. I don't see it.